You are boring. Not stupid, not untalented, not even bad at what you do. Boring. And the reason that stings is because you already suspect it's true. You've looked at your channel, your content, your whatever it is, and you've quietly noticed that people who are objectively worse than you are getting picked instead. They're getting the clicks, the follows, the replies, the business, and you're sitting there thinking, there must be some algorithm trick, some thumbnail formula, some posting schedule you haven't figured out yet. There isn't. The problem is simpler than that and harder to fix. People scroll past you because nothing about you makes them stop. You are a flavor they have already tasted. I want to talk about that. Not the tactics. The actual thing underneath the tactics that determines whether someone chooses you over the 11 other people doing the exact same thing. Because that's the real situation, right? Nobody's competing against zero. You're not the only person making videos about productivity. You're not the only designer posting your work. You're not the only coach, consultant, musician, writer, whatever. You are one of many. And the question you need to sit with, uncomfortably, for longer than you want to, is this. Why would someone pick you? Not why should they? Why would they? There's a guy I know, we'll call him Marcus, who started a YouTube channel about personal finance in 2021. Terrible timing. The niche was already drowning. Every 23-year-old with a Roth IRA and a ring light had a channel. Marcus made 46 videos in his first year. Decent thumbnails, good information, solid production quality. He averaged about 200 views per video. 46 videos, 200 views. Do the math on that in terms of hours spent versus humans reached, and it will make you want to lie down. Then he did something that wasn't a tactic. He stopped trying to be a personal finance channel and started being the specific guy he actually was, a former debt collector who now felt guilty about it and was trying to help people from the other side. Same topic, same niche, but now there was a reason to choose him. Not because his information was better, because his angle was his. Nobody else had that lens. Nobody else could fake it. Within 5 months he had 12,000 subscribers. Within a year he'd passed 60,000. Same person, same skill level, same niche. Different reason to exist. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, cool, so I need to find my unique angle. And yeah, technically, but that phrase has been repeated so many times it's become meaningless. It's like telling someone who's lost to just find their way. The words are correct and completely useless. So let me be more specific about what actually makes people click you instead of everyone else. Because it's not one thing. It's a stack of small things that most people get wrong in the same ways. First, specificity of opinion. Most people are cowards with their content. I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it structurally. They sand down every edge because they don't want to alienate anyone. They say things like, it depends, and there are many approaches, and find what works for you. All technically true. All absolutely invisible. Nobody clicks on invisible. The creators who get chosen are the ones willing to say something that a portion of the audience will disagree with. Not for controversy's sake, that's a different disease, but because they've actually formed a specific opinion through experience and they're willing to stand in it. There's a fitness creator I follow who says flat out that most people should never do a bulk. Just says it, doesn't hedge, doesn't caveat it to death, explains his reasoning, stands in it, moves on. Half the comments are arguments. The video has 4 million views because an opinion is a magnet. It pulls people toward you or pushes them away, and both of those are more useful than being walked past. You don't need to be controversial. You need to be specific. I think X, and here's why, is the most underused sentence in content. Second thing, the way you see the problem. This is different from your topic. Your topic is what you talk about. Your way of seeing is how you interpret what you talk about. And this is the part that's actually hard to copy, which is exactly why it matters. 2 people can make a video called How to Get Your First Client as a Freelancer. One of them sees it as a sales problem. The other sees it as a fear problem. Same title, completely different videos, completely different audiences. The person watching who has tried 17 cold email templates and none of them worked, that person doesn't need another sales video. They need someone who understands that the real issue is they're terrified of rejection. And they've been hiding behind templates so they never have to feel it directly. If you're the creator who sees it that way, that viewer is yours. Not because you're better, because you see them. The way you frame problems is your fingerprint. Most people skip straight to solutions because solutions feel productive. But the creator who describes the problem so precisely that the viewer whispers, "Oh my God, yes, that's exactly it." That creator doesn't need a better thumbnail. The viewer is already leaning in. They feel understood, and feeling understood is the rarest experience on the internet. Let me put this differently. Your diagnosis is more important than your prescription. Anyone can Google a prescription. A diagnosis that actually fits? That's what people come back for. Third, texture. This one's subtle, but it's the difference between content that feels alive and content that feels generated. Texture is the specific detail, the weird aside, the imperfect example, the moment where your actual personality leaks through the format. I watched a video last week from a creator explaining how to write better hooks, standard topic, but halfway through, she stopped and said, "I wrote that hook I just showed you at 2 a.m. because my dog had surgery and I couldn't sleep, and honestly, it's one of the best things I've ever written, and I think it's because I was too tired to try to be clever." That's texture. It's not a sob story. It's not vulnerability porn. It's a specific human moment that makes the information feel like it came from a person instead of a content machine. The creators who get chosen feel like people. That sounds obvious, but go look at most content in any niche and you'll see the same strange phenomenon. Everyone has sanded themselves into the same smooth, professional, interchangeable surface. Same pacing, same tone, same way of holding their hands when they talk, same background music, same everything. They've optimized themselves into anonymity. Texture is what breaks that, and you can't add it strategically. You can only stop removing it. Most people edit out the specific, the weird, the personal, because they think it's unprofessional. What they're actually editing out is the only reason anyone would remember them. Okay, fourth, and this is the one nobody wants to hear. Your actual skill has to be above a threshold. I know the internet loves the story of the mediocre creator who wins on personality alone, and it happens, rarely. For most of us, there's a minimum level of competence below which no amount of personality or specificity or texture will save you. If your videos look like they were filmed on a microwave, if your writing is genuinely hard to follow, if your audio sounds like you're recording inside a washing machine, people will leave. Not because they're shallow, because quality is a trust signal, and trust is what allows everything else to work. You don't need to be the best. You need to be past the point where quality is a distraction. Once your stuff looks and sounds competent enough that the viewer stops noticing the production and starts hearing the ideas, you're there. Everything after that has diminishing returns. The jump from terrible to decent changes everything. The jump from decent to cinematic changes almost nothing. Most people overinvest in production and underinvest in having something to say. Get the production to good enough and then pour everything else into the 4 things I've already mentioned. Now here's where it all connects, and this is what I actually want you to take from this. The reason most people don't get clicked is not that they're doing one thing wrong. It's that they're doing everything generically. Generic opinion, generic framing, generic personality, generic production. And when everything is generic, you are interchangeable, you're a commodity, and the market price of a commodity is always dropping because supply is always increasing. Every day more people start creating content. Every day the generic middle gets more crowded. You cannot win there. You can only drown slowly and wonder why your good content isn't getting rewarded. The creators who get picked, consistently, sustainably, in a way that compounds over years, are the ones who are specific enough to be irreplaceable. Not to everyone, to someone, to a clearly defined someone who feels like this particular creator sees the world the way they do, or at least in a way that makes their own thinking sharper. Let me come back to Marcus for a second. The debt collector turned personal finance creator. What made him work wasn't just the backstory. A backstory is a gimmick if it doesn't change the content. What made him work is that his past changed how he saw money. He didn't talk about investing the way other finance creators did, because he'd spent years watching what debt actually does to people. He'd heard people cry on the phone. He'd seen marriages collapse over $4,000. That experience didn't just make him interesting, it made him write about things other creators missed. His advice was different because his understanding was different. The specificity wasn't decoration, it was structural. That's the difference between a gimmick and an actual edge. A gimmick is a unique angle bolted onto the same ideas. An edge is a unique angle that produces different ideas. The first one is a costume. The second one is a skeleton. People can feel the difference even if they can't name it. So what do you do with all of this? Because I realize I've spent a lot of time on diagnosis and not much on prescription, which, yeah, I told you diagnosis matters more. But let me give you something concrete anyway. Sit down and answer this question honestly. If someone watched 10 of your videos and 10 videos from the 3 other biggest creators in your space, could they tell the difference with their eyes closed? Not the production, not the visuals, just listening. Would your ideas sound different? Would your framing sound different? Would the way you interpret problems sound different? Would your personality come through in a way that's distinguishable? If the answer is no, nothing else matters yet. Not your posting schedule, not your SEO, not your thumbnails, not your funnel. You're trying to optimize distribution for something that has no reason to be distributed. It's like putting racing tires on a car with no engine. And look, this is hard to hear because specificity feels risky. Being generic feels safe. If you say nothing distinctive, nobody can disagree with you. Nobody can reject you, but nobody can choose you either. Safety and invisibility are the same thing online. The other thing I want you to notice is that everything I've described is a moat, a real one. If your advantage is a tactic, a thumbnail style, a posting time, a content format, someone can copy it tomorrow. If your advantage is the way you see problems, the texture of your personality, the specificity of your opinions formed through experiences nobody else has had, that can't be copied. It can't even be approximated. It's yours in a way that no strategy or algorithm shift can take from you. That's what makes people click you instead of everyone else. Not being louder, not being first, not being more polished, being the one they can't get from anyone else. Being specific enough that replacing you would leave a gap. Most creators will never do this, because it requires something scarier than learning a new editing technique or studying analytics. It requires deciding who you actually are, what you actually believe, and being willing to let the people who don't resonate with that walk away. Every creator who's ever built something real has a story about the moment they stopped trying to appeal to everyone and started speaking directly to someone. The numbers usually dip first, then they come back, and when they come back, they're different, stickier, more loyal, more likely to click every single thing you post without reading the title first. That's the thing nobody tells you about standing out. It doesn't start with adding something. It starts with stopping the constant unconscious work of filing yourself down to fit a shape you were never supposed to be. The edges you keep removing are the edges people would grab onto. Stop sanding, start deciding, and be willing to be the flavor that not everybody wants, but the people who want it can't find anywhere else.